It is 3 p.m. on the East Coast, Friday afternoon. What's up, everybody? Filled with photo gear fun here, first live stream in a little while. Got some interesting stuff going for you today. As you probably saw if you looked at the title, we're comparing the GH5, which is filming us right now, to the Sony a7 III. We're going to check them out throughout this video on which one might be better for live streaming. Also, got this little beauty here. It's an Osmo Pocket Expansion Pack. We'll be unboxing that. UPS just dropped that off, but we're on the GH5 right now. So pay attention to how the autofocus works. It's not great with autofocus normally, although it seems to be doing pretty well right now. Whoa, Chris, welcome. You are first. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see if some other folks join before we get started here. Cheers, Chris. Chris now has the wrench. All right, so let's actually jump right in. I'm going to switch over to the a7 III here. We're going to do a live unboxing. Shine a little light on the subject. I just got this in, like I said, from UPS. This is the Osmo Pocket Accessory Pack. So let's see what's inside. I've got a case for it. I kind of know what's in here, obviously, since I bought it, but this is a case that is a GoPro-like case. Comes with a Wi-Fi adapter and actually has a nice little plate where you can somehow stick the Osmo in there. Right. There you go. And now you can control the Osmo Pocket via Wi-Fi, so you don't have to connect it to your phone. And probably the main reason I got it was for the scroll wheel. My buddy Gary over at Everyday Dad took his Osmo Pocket to NAB with him. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. You probably already subscribe. If you don't, definitely subscribe to him. He's got a great channel. He does a lot of video-centric gear reviews. But he was showing how well this works, and I'm particularly interested in the fact that this gives you finer control when you're scrolling. Hey Bobby World, welcome. So you can see the scrolling and the button functions as well. Pretty excited. I'm going to take that on the trip to this little place here soon. Happiest place on earth. And we'll see how that does. Let's see what else we have in the kit. All right. Like you got a Samsung 32 gigabyte EVO memory card, and of course good bedtime reading material. So that's it. I'm pretty excited to use this. I'm going to switch back over to the GH5 now. Get the Sony back up here. So that is the unboxing. Looks like it's $109, I think. It seems on the expensive side, but we'll see what value I get out of it. Channel update, I did quite a few videos. Last time we did a live stream, I think it was about 3 weeks ago. Quite a few videos, some A6400 videos, one with the macro lens, a 30mm macro, one with the 105mm, which is what is here, and this is with the cage. So you can create a vlogging rig. I'm probably going to take this setup with me and the Rode Video Micro to the happiest place on earth, and we'll see how that does. Also did a video comparing these two, and just showed you some video that I had taken in Florida at Disney, just to compare the two with video and time lapse. But this will be my primary vlogging camera when I go this time, most likely. And then I'm going to take the a6400 for both photos and video. But with this 18-105 lens, I should get pretty good range. It's a fairly heavy setup. I'm not sure if I might just bring the a6400 and the Osmo, and that might be my camera kit for this. Although this will probably be the last time I'm going to ride Spaceship Earth. It's closing for refurb, so I might bring the a6500 with the 16mm Sigma lens, just to get a good low light shot. I want to try to do a full recording of that in low light before it gets refurbed. At Bobby World, the sensor on the a6400, it is a crop sensor, and this lens is an 18-105 lens. So you have to multiply that by the crop factor. It is an f4 lens. It's really a good lens. It's solid, it's heavy. It's a G branded lens, which means that's kind of their higher end. It's also got a power zoom, PZ they call it, so you can zoom in without actually turning anything. And that power zoom is helpful for video. So we're going to see, I did a video, like I said, I did a video on this, a couple videos on this actually. And you can see that. Let's see, what else do we have? Looks like the autofocus doing pretty good. As I say that, so this is my main issue with the GH5, and you can see it still hasn't. Let's see. Yeah, it still hasn't gotten me. And there's an app, there it goes. There's an app you can set up. I didn't set up the app because we're doing live streams. Hey, Arjons, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I didn't use the app because I don't have a battery yet, a dummy battery yet for the GH5, so I wanted to make sure that we had enough battery power, although I do have a battery standing by for the GH5. So let me know how this looks. If you're watching live, let me know what you think of the GH5. If you're watching the replay, let me know what you think. Again, this is the Panasonic GH5. Trying this live streaming. We're live streaming at 1080p, so it should look pretty good. And I'm going to switch over now to the Sony a7 III. They're both set at ISO 400. The GH5 has the 12-60 kit lens on it, and the a7 III has the 28-70 kit lens, so they're both kit lenses. They're both set roughly at the same aperture, f4 and roughly f4 there, so you can see this is the Sony, and the big strength of the Sony is the autofocus. I mean, I use Sony cameras because the autofocus is so good. You can see how quickly that's snapping in and out of focus. The last live stream I did was with the a7 III. I think it looked pretty good. The quality looks pretty good. The light seems a little low at this angle. My lighting is set up kind of for the main angle, which is the GH5, so you might see a little bit of difference in the lighting. But again, this is the Sony a7 III, and actually looks a little better with some light there. And that autofocus is just amazing. Again, this is the kit lens with the Sony, so they're both kit lenses. We'll switch back over to the GH5. They're both in their kind of standard picture profiles. So yeah, Chris, the a7 III, I don't know, I'm growing to like the colors from the GH4, although they're maybe just a little undersaturated, where I think the Sony probably nails the saturation. This is more like what my skin looks like. It's more of an olive toned skin and this is the Sony a7 again. I think the colors, although Sony's been knocked for their color science, and people talk about how bad it is, I think it looks really good. Going back to the GH5, and again, there's a little difference in lighting, the way the lighting is set up here, but I think they both look really good. And if the stream is holding up, it seems like it is, you should get an idea on the quality. And I don't see a huge difference in sharpness or clarity or any of those kind of quality things that you would look at, but this is the autofocus is the main reason. And not that the autofocus is bad necessarily, but it's unreliable. And you can see there. And normally what happens with this, if you set it to be too aggressive, the background kind of pulses as it tries to find focus. And I haven't seen any pulsing. Let me know in the comments or live if you see any pulsing at all. I don't really see any pulsing in the background, but again, the autofocus is not spectacular. And I found sometimes, oddly, if you hold it close to the lens, it will focus. And of course, it's not going to this time. It's not going to lose me. And I don't have face or eye detect on. So yeah, that's the issue with the GH5. A lot of folks who use the GH5 will either set it for manual focus or they'll use the app, and you can, with the app, you can just touch, and the app is really good. Panasonic has a really, really good app for remote control and doing video and pictures. It looks probably, I haven't tried the new Sony app. Sony does have a new app that was released that is supposed to be a little better than the previous app, but here's the GH5 again. We'll switch over to the Sony. Oh, I also did a video on this interesting little lens here. It's actually not little at all, but this is a 15mm lens, which is wide angle, but it's also macro. You can get literally this close to your subject, and that's how close you have to get to make this a true macro lens. But I did a video about that. I took some pictures of some flowers that we have here, and it's a $140 lens, and I used it on this Canon SL3, which actually does a pretty good job. And in the video I show why I chose that, but it does a good job with macro photography. You can zoom into your subject on its live view. But the lens is pretty solid. Again, for $140, it's a true macro lens. It's metal with a really cheap plastic lens hood, which I'm not a big fan of. But this is for Canon mount, but I can also mount it on my Panasonic cameras with an adapter, so I can use those cameras if I want to do some macro shooting. This is if you're into macro and you want to see some interesting shots, usually with a macro lens, and go back to the GH5, you're zoomed in and you have a really narrow field of view. With this, you've got 15mm, so you can show, let's say, a bug on a leaf, and you can show the full leaf, or you can show part of the tree. So it's a really interesting perspective that not many lenses give you. Always time for a refreshing beverage, yeah, especially from the Disney cup. Any questions? That's pretty much what I had for the planned piece of this. Any questions about anything? No. NEB just finished, which is the National Association of Broadcasters. There were some announcements that came out of that. Rode has some new microphones, and Deity has some new microphones. Canon announced the SL3, which I'm interested in. You saw the SL2 here. The SL3, very similar in size. It's a DSLR, which this is, which means it does have a mirror, and it's kind of the, if you want to call it, older style. It's not a mirrorless camera, but the SL3 adds 4K, and it's 4K with a big crop, so it's maybe not the greatest 4K, but it does have 4K, and I'm interested in checking it out. I love the SL2. It's such a great camera. It's really designed for first-time users, and then, although I'm not a first-time user, you've got these great interfaces where if you want to change anything, basically it kind of guides you through, and there's a guided mode. I'm not in that guided mode, but basically you're able to very easily make changes to the settings, and it explains to you in camera how those setting changes will affect your photograph. It's a great system. Canon always has very usable cameras. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why people love Canon. They love that dual pixel autofocus, but they also love the fact that it's really easy to use. And this SL2 is super simple to use. Again, it has that flip out screen. This is only 1080p, but for vlogging, if you get that Canon 10-18 lens, which is really inexpensive for a wide angle lens, I think it's $300 or so, you've got a great little vlogging rig. And I actually did a video on this if you search through the archives. I took this with me to Disney with that 18, I think it was the 10-18 lens. Yeah, Bobby, I don't know if it has USB charging. pretty sure the SL2 does not. But it's kind of strange that somebody might offer a camera without that these days, because it's pretty much what everybody expects, and it does make a big difference. In fact, in some cases I might not take a camera because it doesn't have USB charging, or USB power is another one. And you know, I don't know about the SL3. I did look at the specs really quickly, but I didn't pay attention to that one. And Chris, you probably know the price. I think it's like $650. I didn't look at the price, oddly enough. I just looked at some of the specs, but it seems like it's a great camera if you're just getting into a system, you're just getting started, if you're coming from a smartphone and you want to kind of get into a real camera or a bigger camera that has changeable lenses. This is certainly, the SL3 looks like it's going to be a good option. But there are so many good options out there. There aren't really any bad cameras these days. That's why my job as a reviewer is really, really simple, because just about every camera is good these days. All right, so yeah, thanks, Chris. It's $650 with the kit lens, which is the 18 to 55 kit lens. So it's a good deal. It's a good camera. And again, it kind of, the M50 is almost a mirrorless version of the SL3. It has the same processor, has the same basic internals, same specs. It just depends on whether you want mirrorless or DSLR, and there are pros and cons to both. Oh, I did a video on this little vlogging setup. Let's see if so this has all been on the GH5. It's actually doing a decent job with autofocus, but this is a little vlog rig that you can buy. It's just a plastic case basically, and again I did a video on this, but it allows you to connect the microphone adapter. This is the microphone adapter, and it slides in to this case, and then on the top you have a mount if you want to put a microphone on there. So this makes it really easy if you want to vlog with your GoPro. And I thought about taking this, I don't know, but I don't know if I'm going to use it. So we'll have to see about that. But I might take this and use that rig and see how it does. Got some new lights, actually some color lights. Let's see if we can get these to work. I love live TV, if you will. Let's see if we can turn one of these blue. There you go. Probably doesn't show up too well, but you can kind of see that blue tint. And these are Yongyo, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, lights, but they're around $100 or so a piece, and they are what they call RGB, which means red, green, and blue. So beyond the regular lights, and you can see I'm turning the blue down now, you can change the colors and create basically just about any color that you want. So the remote control is a really nice touch if you want to just, even if you want to turn down the light or lights. I have two lights, and this remote allows you to be able to connect to both of them wirelessly. There's also an app, but I found that the remote's just pretty handy. Yeah, so Chris, I don't think that there's a difference between the SL3 and the M50 as far as actual picture quality goes. I think they use the same, if it's not the same sensor, it's pretty close. They're 24 megapixel sensors. They both have the Digic 8 processor. I haven't seen a side-by-side comparison, but I'm guessing that if you have the M50, I don't think the SL3 is going to offer much, other than the fact that the SL3 uses the EF lenses or EFS lenses, which is Canon's main line, which is a big draw for a lot of people because, as you know, Chris, as an M50 owner, you don't have a great deal of lens choices in that mount. I forget what they call that mount, but they're really not developing a lot of lenses for the M50, and the lenses that they have aren't really great lenses, and they're more expensive than, let's say, the EF equivalent. So if you want to jump over to the SL2 or SL3 for that reason, I think that's a valid reason. EFM mount, thanks, yeah. So I think they're pretty much the same internals, besides the fact that obviously one has a mirror and the other one doesn't. But I don't know, if I had the M50, I'd probably just stick with the M50 if you have a lens that suits what your needs are. Yeah, and Bobby World, that M50 I'm sure is serving you well. It's a great little camera. If you're not going to do 4K, and for the SL3, there's no dual pixel autofocus in 4K, just like there's no dual pixel autofocus in 4K for the M50. So again, they're very similar in that respect. I don't think you'll really see a big difference, like I said, other than the fact that one has a mirror that flips up and you can hear that mirror when you're taking a picture, and then the EF lenses versus the EFM lenses, which I think is a really big deal. I don't know that I would invest. If I were choosing today, looking at all the different specs and all the different choices you have, I would certainly go with the SL3 because you can buy into that huge line of Canon lenses, and the lenses are much less expensive for the EF or EFS lenses than they are for the EFM. But yeah, the 4K, it's Canon. That's another reason why I'm not a huge fan of Canon, is that they tend to cripple their cameras. And 4K is unusable for the crop, probably, but even more so because it doesn't have dual pixel autofocus. So, sorry, just checking back on the GH5 autofocus. Man, it's doing a pretty good job here today. I mean, you can see how fast that a7 III is, especially snapping back. But this is the a7 III again. And these aren't the greatest lighting conditions, but there's the a7 III. We'll go back to the GH5, which again is doing a surprisingly good job with autofocus, now that I've talked about how bad the autofocus is, but it is reliable. Sorry, taking a look at the questions here. Yeah, the GH4, it's still a good solid camera. If you can get a GH4 for $600, man, that's a deal. And if you're behind the camera, it's a perfect camera because you have ways to autofocus, and the autofocus, if you control it, is really good. But if you're looking at vlogging, I thought about maybe bringing this to vlog with, and it's just not reliable enough for me to do that. So I'm going to bring that Osmo Pocket, it has contrast autofocus as well, but in my testing, it's not nearly as bad. I don't think the range that it uses when it's trying to acquire focus, I don't think it's the f-stops are as many as there would be in let's say like a real camera, but it does a pretty good job. Again, you can see it pulse a little bit from time to time, but generally just hold it out at arm's length and it does a good job. And that, in the video I showed the motion time lapse, it's just an incredible feature, and the GoPro has something like that called hyperlapse, and it's just great. Yeah, we all do want the perfect camera, and there isn't a perfect camera. There may be a perfect camera for each situation. I would say, for me, the closest thing to a perfect camera is this a7 III. And the biggest issue I have with the a7 III is not that it doesn't have a flip-up screen, because I actually vlogged with this at Disney, again, where I do my vlogging. But I didn't have a flip-up screen, and I didn't miss any shots. It's good enough, the autofocus is good enough, and as long as you point it kind of around your face, and I was using the same lens, it works fine. If it had a flippy screen, Chris, I agree, that would be perfect. Sorry about that. But for the price, the picture quality, I shoot a lot of pictures. I shoot more pictures than I do video, so picture quality is very important. The lenses are big if you get the full frame lenses, and they're expensive, and that's the biggest issue that I have with it. It's not that I feel like it's not worth it. If I were a pro, certainly the lenses would be worth it. I'm not a pro. I don't make money from photography. So for me to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a lens, probably like many others, is pretty crazy. But if you're a pro, obviously, then it's probably not all that much. The battery life on the a7 III is phenomenal. They use those bigger Z-type batteries, and you can see the autofocus even with this kit lens. And the body itself is fairly light, so we're going to switch back to the GH5. And this whole video is kind of pointed around checking the differences between the GH5 for streaming versus the a7 III. And I have to say, I think the GH5 is doing a pretty darn good job for this stream. A little slow with the autofocus there, but I haven't seen any pulsing. Let me know if you guys have seen any pulsing. Uses the a7 III upside down. You could always just put a mirror on the back. I've seen some mirror boxes that you can use. Or you can use the app, but again, I used it for vlogging, and if I were, counting on vlogging for a living, I might not. But I didn't have any issues with vlogging, just for personal use. So what do you guys think of the GH5 quality? Autofocus test here. Yeah, see. So that's the thing, it's unreliable, but I'm not going to beat a dead horse. If I had the app, and probably if I were to use this for live streams where I'm not just doing a comparison, I probably would have the app, just have a little tablet, and if it gets out of focus, you just tap the screen on where you want it to focus and it'll tap. Thanks, Bobby World. Yeah, the reason I got the GH5, the main reason, was that they have this thing called 4K live crop, and if you watch my latest video, you can see the 4K live crop in action. It's a spectacular feature, and again, I thank my friend Gary over at the Everyday Dad for showing me that one. But basically, since you have a 4K sensor, you can start, and this is shot in 1080, but you can basically pick a spot around the screen where you want the movement to start and where you want it to stop, and then you can zoom in and out based on the size of the focus area that you choose, and it will make those movements for you. So if you watch my latest video, actually the last few videos I've used that, and it's just super simple. Normally I would have to set up some sort of dolly that might go around, and it's just mechanical, and it was kind of, it took a while. With this, I just set up the shot, pick my start on the camera back, pick my finish, and it does the movement for you. You can pick 20 seconds or 40 seconds. And it's an amazing feature that's going to save a ton of time, and the GH5 video is world renowned. I mean, it's used by a lot of people that are kind of behind the camera, and some people even use it for vlogging. So yeah, Chris, the GH5. So far, I've only had it for a little while, but merchant photography, I haven't noticed any pulsing either. So I've watched a bunch of videos, and Gerald Undone is another. If you're into cameras and you like technical stuff, Gerald Undone got another great channel where he goes through and does really extensive testing, and just a really smart guy. And I looked at some of his videos on this, and he gave me some settings to try out. And the settings that I'm using now are from him, and that's supposed to stop the pulsing at the cost potentially of not getting great autofocus. But I'm okay with that. If the autofocus slips a little bit, I'd rather have it not grab focus than try to pulse back and forth. So I think these settings work pretty well. So if you're watching and you want to get a GH5 or you have a GH5, check out Gerald Undone's video on it. I'll see if I can find a link. If I can, I'll put it in the description below. But another great channel, great video. The stabilization on the GH5 is, yeah, it's amazing. So that's one thing that I wouldn't really need a gimbal if I were doing vlogging. And this lens that's on it, it's a 12-60 lens. That's the kit lens, and it has dual IS 2, which means the lens works in conjunction with the sensor. And I have the G85, and that is phenomenal, and the GX85. They're both phenomenal cameras for stabilization. I've done some videos with them where, like shows at Disney or whatever, I can hand hold and make small movements. It almost looks like it's on a gimbal. So yeah, the stabilization is incredible. Yeah, Chris, that G85, it's a great camera. In fact, I debated whether I wanted to go with the GH5 because the G85 is such a great camera, especially for the price now. And I haven't looked, the G90 came out, which is the successor to a G95, which didn't really impress me with the specs. It didn't seem like a major upgrade, but maybe now you can even get the G85 for less. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Chris, I'm interested to see that. You'll have to let me know how that went. Chris and I chat on Discord, actually, from the Everyday Dad's channel. We've been going back and forth, and he's got a Leica lens, the Leica 12-60, which is similar to this lens, but it's much more expensive, and he was going to do a comparison. I'm interested in seeing that. Oh, that Ninja V, Ninja 5 is incredible. Actually, I just took it down for now because I'm not using it, but I use that for everything now. My workflow is so easy, and I haven't tried it with the GH5 yet on a video, but the Fuji outputs 10-bit 420, 422, but 10-bit video coming out if you do color grading, supposed to be the bee's knees. I don't know if I'm going to do grading. I'm certainly not going to buy the log upgrade for the GH5, which is another $100. It's got HLG, so if I want to do some log like, maybe I'll use HLG, but I don't know. I don't, for the videos that I do, I don't find that color grading will add a lot. I don't do a lot of outdoor stuff where I need that high dynamic range. If I did, I certainly would consider it, but for me, for what I'm doing here in the studio, I can control the lighting pretty well and don't really feel the need. So I'm just going to use the standard picture profiles, which will save me a lot of time editing. Yeah, I agree, Chris. They included, I think they included Vlog in the G95, which made me scratch my head because, again, normally that's $100 that they charge for that. But I'm pretty sure that they did, which seems odd to me. It's not necessarily a true video camera like the GH5 is, but I guess Panasonic's trying to throw a little value in there. I think they realized that they didn't provide a huge upgrade, so they had to justify it, and I think that's what they did to throw that in. But yeah, that Ninja, I have to check and see if there are any firmware updates, but the fact that I can take all these different cameras, so I use the GH5 to do my photos and for my product shots, and then I use the A7 or I'll use the A6500 depending on what I want to do for some other shots. Like the overhead stuff that I do normally comes from the A6500, and I can plug all those into the Ninja and record my files and then just take that SSD drive from the Ninja, plug it into my PC, and then when I'm working on Premiere, I've got everything in those files, and it's just so simple. Don't have to worry about SD cards and all that other stuff. Just plug it in, record. Once you're done, remove it from the Ninja, plug it in, and the workflow is just amazing. Yeah, I do use ProRes LT is what I believe I'm using, and that is kind of, it's a good compromise because if you go heavier, then it kind of drags, and my PC is pretty powerful, but it can drag your PC down. So I use ProRes 4, I think it's 422 LT, and it's also, you know, it's not data heavy or it's not as data heavy as the other codecs that they offer, but it definitely is easy to edit in. I use Adobe Premiere on the PC, and I haven't had any issues with that. Definitely a highly recommended. It is very expensive. I think they're still at $695 or $795, but the time that it'll save you if you're doing video production overall, it's going to pay for itself, I think, fairly quickly. Oh, I appreciate you guys watching. Any other questions or comments? How's the audio? I'm trying a new microphone. I'm using the Rode Filmmaker Kit, but I've got this microphone that I was using for my cell phone. I really like the sound. How is the audio sound, Ben? Oh, DaVinci, yeah. I saw that they made some updates. I've used DaVinci in the past when I've tried color grading, and it's a great color grading app. That's primarily what it's for. Oh, thank you. Thanks for that. But I'll probably, it's free, so there's no harm in downloading it. I might give that a try too to see if the rest of the NLE part of that, where you know, I'm comfortable with Premiere, so it's hard to switch. But if I do color grading, I definitely would do it in Resolve. Oh, Bobby World. Yeah, I didn't. I've been so busy with work, my real job, that I haven't paid a lot of attention to what's coming out of NAB. But it's nice that that Adobe is putting some work into Premiere. Although when I did my upgrade last time, it got completely messed up. I had to reinstall it twice, but I guess that happens. Thanks, Chris. Audio sounds decent. Rode came out with a new audio solution that is very tempting. It's a $200 wireless solution, really small. I forget what it's called. Video Mic Go? No. Again, I haven't paid as much attention to NAB as I probably should have, but I do know that that's Curtis Judd did a review on that. It seems like it's a great little system where you can use it. You can kind of clip it on if you want to. It's kind of big just to clip on, but you can also attach a lav mic. It's got a lav mic built into it as well, so you can use it if you want to set it somewhere. It looks like it's a decent system. For $200, it's really small and really portable, and it's wireless. It's 2.4 gigahertz, so it's the same. I'm using the Filmmaker kit, the same basic internals as the Filmmaker kit, I believe, but smaller. Rode Wireless Go. Thanks, Chris. And Chris pre-ordered. So check out, well, Chris, who is in the as a moderator, he has a channel. If you're looking for audio, he knows audio like nobody that I know. So check out his channel if you're looking for audio solutions. He's got a channel that is growing, but he's done some reviews on some audio gear. If you have audio questions, he certainly would be able to help you out with that. I'm an audio noob. I don't, I think that this Rode kit sounds fine with this microphone. Probably could sound better. I do have some other microphones. I got the Deity microphone. It seems to be pretty good with the Rode Video Micro for vlogging, and some Samsung, which really are made for music more, I think, but I've got those, and I've been happy with the audio. If I could just get rid of this dry mouth, and I'm sorry, that's why I'm drinking. Sometimes you'll hear some noise, but I apologize for that. And I think, Chris, I'll have to chat with you about soundproofing, or maybe not soundproofing, but using some moving blankets or something to try to deaden the noise in here. Thanks, Bobby World. Yeah, Chris knows his stuff. Yeah, but I'm drinking water. Doesn't seem to be helping. I got some of those dry mouth lozenge Act, I think. I took one before. It seems like it might be better. I'm not sure. I haven't listened to the audio, obviously, but in some of my videos I've had comments about it, so trying to get that resolved. All right. If there aren't any more questions, I appreciate you guys taking some time out of your Friday. If it is Friday, if you're watching live, happy Friday. And for those of you in the East, happy Friday, almost evening. If you're watching on the replay, happy insert day here. Thank you for watching the replay. I appreciate it. If you have any questions watching the replay, go ahead and post them down below. Also, I recently became part of the Amazon affiliate program, so I'm going to add a link to my store down below. And basically, I have a storefront, and if you click on that storefront, if you buy anything, I think it's like within 24 hours or so, I get a small commission on what you buy. It doesn't cost you any more. So I just want to let you know that, and all the links that I've had in the past have been affiliated links. So if you want to help support the channel at no cost to you, that's certainly one way to do it. I'll have those links below. And again, you can click on the store. I've got a bunch of the gear that I recommend. But if you do any other shopping there, the channel gets a part of that. So I do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Drink water 2 hours, yeah. Yeah, I've been paying more attention to it now, and I'm trying to correct it. But maybe paying attention to it, making it worse, I'm not sure. So let's do one more quick look at the GH5, which you're seeing here. And yeah. Okay. So this is the Panasonic GH5. Chris, wow. My first super chat. Thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate it. Super Chat just got enabled. I hit 1,000 subscribers not that long ago. But thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I'm not even really sure how it works at this point. I just know that somehow I get some portion of whatever it is. I'll have to do a little more reading on that. But Chris, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I know everybody, the money is hard earned, and $10 is a lot of money. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And this is the a7 III. So if I'm buying a camera today, the GH5 is $1,500 without a lens, so it's probably around $2,000 with a kit lens. The a7 III with a kit lens I think has dropped. I'm more of a photographer. This a7 III is full frame, which means in theory you'll get deeper depth of field. It's a bigger sensor, so it lets in more light, so you can collect more light, and it's, you know, everybody talks about full frame. So let's call it $2,000 is probably what the normal price is. For me as a photographer who does some video, I'm going to choose the a7 III over the GH5 all day long. But we'll switch back to the GH5. If you're a GH5, or if you're a video shooter, and especially if you do behind the camera video, this GH5, autofocus won't matter really if you're behind the camera. But all the features it has around video, waveforms and scopes and all, man, it's just full of video features. Definitely much more video features, or many more video features in the GH5 than the a7 III. So if you're a hybrid shooter like I am, where you shoot photos, and the GH5 takes great photos as well, it's just not, it's not necessarily made to be a great stills camera. The G9, which the Panasonic G9, seems like it's a really good hybrid camera. It does focus on photography and has some good video aspects as well. But the GH5 battery lasts forever. The a7 III battery lasts a good long time as well. So, and they're roughly the same weight, roughly the same size, same style. But for online, man, that's tough. It probably just depends on what your preference is. So this is the a7 III. Does this look better for the colors? And this is picture profile 1 on the Sony. And again, the lighting's a little bit different between the two. I have the main lights, kind of the GH5 lights pointing on me directly, and these are indirect lights. But that's the color you'll see. And again, I think this is more my eye color, and my skin color seems to be more realistic on the Sony than it does on the GH5, but not by much. And you can see the difference between the two. Again, lighting does make a difference. Hey Liam, welcome. We're almost about to wrap it up. So if you have any questions, let me know. I can certainly answer some questions. But we've been going through, and you can watch the replay on the GH5 versus the a7 III. We also did an unboxing of the Osmo Pocket Kit. I'm actually, when we're done here, I'm going to start playing with this for sure. I'll be taking this with me, and little scroll wheel, little Wi-Fi, which is actually going to be great for time lapses. You don't have to worry about setting up the phone and connecting the phone. You can connect the Osmo Pocket to your phone, and the phone kind of hangs there. And I have a little adapter for that as well. Oops. And I put a mic or an adapter on there so you can add a microphone to it. But with this, you just set it down. You can pick your start and end points for time lapses or take photos, and man, it's gonna be nice. Yeah, you can add a mic to the Osmo. I'm looking at trying to get the adapter, which I probably won't have for this trip coming up. It's a $40 adapter, or it depends on where you buy it, $30 or $40. And it's basically just this little tiny, this one was supposed to work, but it doesn't. This is this little tiny USB-C that has a 3.5-inch adapter in it. Hey, the autofocus actually worked pretty good. But it's $40. But the mic adapter for the GoPro is $50, so I don't know. I wish it was less. It seems like there's not a lot of hardware that goes in there, probably not a lot of R&D, but yeah, the DJI Osmo Pocket will support external audio, though I found if you hold it properly, the audio is pretty good. And you can see, if you haven't seen my videos, you can go back and do a search on Osmo Pocket, and you can see the quality and you can hear the quality. I think the audio quality is fine, but everybody has a different opinion. So you can, with this rig that I have set up, I can add the video micro here, have a shotgun mic, and walk around with it and use it. Or you can add a lavalier mic as well. But yeah, I think the audio sounds fine. It could sound better, obviously, but All right, we're at 45 minutes. Any last questions or thoughts? Just do one more quick switch between the Panasonic GH5, which has done a decent job autofocusing here, and the a7iii, which is, in my mind, people say Canon dual pixel is better. I don't know. This is the firmware upgrade 3, which they added eye autofocus and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. I think the I think the Sony is actually better. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, starting off the weekend with me, or getting an early jump on the weekend, whatever the case may be, wherever you are. Get out there and have your photo gear fun, and I will catch up with you guys in the next video. Thanks.